It's coffee time. And oh my goodness, I have so many stories. You guys, my adventures in buses yesterday were ridiculous. Like, there was no experience. I was on buses for most of the day yesterday. I was either on buses or I was walking to or from a bus yesterday. That was my entire life. And not one situation did I walk away from and have no story to tell. It's like, this is incredible. If I just go on the bus every day, I will always have a story. This is so incredible. It's amazing. Like, I've avoided the public transportation in LA because all I can see in my mind is like me sitting in a chair surrounded by drug dealers. And I know that that's not the way it is. I realize that there are plenty of like moms and old women and kids and whatever else that always ride the buses. And I'm like, it's not like they're super dangerous that way. But in my mind, that's like all I saw because so many people always have stories from being on the buses. They're always like, oh my gosh, this super crazy person talked to me today. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to go on the bus. So I finally manned up because my license expired, to remind you. And I was like, well, this is a good excuse to try out the public transportation. Okay. Let's start off when I tried to go to TGS, shall we? So I looked up, because they have like a trip planner. If you go to, I think it's like metro.net or something like that, they have like an LA Metro website that has a trip planner, and you can say, I'm going from this address to this address, and the most that it'll let you walk is 1 mile. Like, you can specify anywhere from 0 to 1 mile in terms of this is how much I'm willing to walk. So I was like, I'm willing to walk a mile, that's totally fine. So I hit 1 mile, and then the way that it told me to go was, it was like a decent walk from me, the first like bus. I was like, that's fine. I like walking. That's totally fine for me to walk. So I walk all the way to this bus stop, right? And I see a bus go by me. This is like 5 minutes before this bus is supposed to leave. I see the bus go by me. And this is at like 1 in the afternoon. And I'm like, that can't be my bus, because it's like really early and buses are always late. Like, sometimes on time, but for the most part just late, right? It wouldn't come early, right? So I get to the bus stop and I'm sitting there for a while, and suddenly there are millions of high schoolers around me. And I was like, and everybody thought I was one of them, of course. But I'm sitting there, and I sat there for like 15 minutes, and I thought, that must have been the bus. It must have gotten here early. Now, you should know that for 10 minutes of the 15 minutes that I was sitting there was a girl making out with a Go-Gurt packet, like so into it. There were sucking sounds. It was the creepiest thing. I'm like sitting on this bench because I got there before all the high schoolers, right? And then the high schoolers swarmed, and this girl sat right next to me, and it looked like, it was like the little girl from The Ring. Her hair was like all in her face, and it was really long, dark hair, and I couldn't see any of her features. All I could see was her holding Go-Gurt packets, and she was just like, and she would like bend over and like squeeze the packet to get all of the yogurt out. It was the creepiest thing. And I kept going, I'm not gonna look at you. I won't look. I won't look. I will not look. But it's like, how do you not look? Do you hear it? Do you hear it? And everybody else was just ignoring it. Like, it happens every single day. Blew my mind. And then there was a little girl who, I shouldn't say little girl, because they all, I think for the most part, they were probably all in high school. They looked around like freshman-ish age, maybe. But there was a girl who had like a super fancy blinged out phone, and another girl walked by her and was like, really nice phone. And she was like, oh, like the most dramatic sigh I've ever heard in my life. And then her phone started ringing and she was like, what? I'm at the bus stop. And I was like, I need to leave. I can't be here anymore. I can't do this. I have this girl making out with yogurt next to me, and then another girl who's yelling into her bling phone. I can't do this. So I left. I walked away because I was sure that that bus, they only come once per hour. I was sure that the bus that I needed to take was gone. So I just walked off. I just walked all the way back to my house. So then later, I made a second attempt. Now this second attempt was ridiculous because, so I was taken all the way to TGS, and then from TGS I said, all right, I'm going to take the bus back this time. We'll try this again. And this time I'll make sure that I get there early enough that I definitely get on this bus, right? So the bus comes by and I get on it and I'm like, yay, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it. And like the only like possible crippling thing in the back of my mind is I hope that I'm going the right direction and I took the right one. But I knew that it was the right bus, like the right number of bus, so I was like, okay, we're doing good. We're doing better than last time. Last time there was Go-Gurt. We're doing good right now. So we're driving along and I'm sitting next to this woman and this guy gets on at the next stop. And he's got this huge duffel bag that he's like clinging to. You guys, this was the weirdest thing I've ever, maybe not ever seen, but I was not expecting this and I don't know why. So this bus is filled with women, all women, which was weird. And then this guy gets on with a huge duffel bag and he's like clinging to it. And for the most part, he's like dressed okay, but like his duffel bag is just so creepy. It's like this big, just like khaki bag. And he sits down right next to us. And I was like, not making, like, you seem weird, so I'm not gonna make eye contact with you. And really loudly to the woman next to me, he goes, you wanna drive? Wow, I just totally started that so wrong. He said, my sister, you wanna buy some shrooms? And she just didn't respond. He was like, my sister, you wanna buy some shrooms? And she was like, I'm not interested, thank you. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he sat there like clinging to his bag. He goes, well, you got like another guy? You got like another dude? Cause I can give you a really good price on some shrooms. And she was like, I'm not interested. And then the bus driver stops the bus and is like, do I hear what I think I hear going on back there? Because I will kick you off. And he was like, no, man, no, it's cool, no, it's cool, man. And so he gets up and walks to the back and you can like faintly hear, like imagine you're in a movie where there's the big conflict going on, but in the background you can hear like an innocuous conversation. So in the background, I'm hearing him trying to sell weed to another girl, and she's like, I don't smoke cigarettes. And he's like, I'm not trying to sell you cigarettes, sister. She was like, ah, like, oh gosh, I was like, don't encourage it, stop laughing, oh no. But, so then the woman next to me, the first one that he talked to, looks at me and goes, that was awful. That was just awful. That was the most awful thing. And then she sat there for a while. There was a really pregnant pause and she sat there for a while and then she like stares off in the distance and goes, that brother be crazy. And ever since then, that I've wanted to respond to situations by saying, that brother be crazy. Because that's just all I hear in my head. I was like, it was incredible. She repeated it again later because he kept like getting up and like standing and then he'd sit down again and then he'd get up and stand. Like he was so all over the place. It was the weirdest thing to watch. I was like, yo, this guy is trying to sell all the drugs on your bus. All of them, just kick him off, it's cool. And then my stop came up and I was like, well, bye. But yeah, so that was my second bus scenario. And then I was going to be visiting a friend in the evening. And I said, no, I can do this. I can do this. And he was like, all right, but I mean, you'll have to take a bus to a station and then from the station you'll get on the metro. And I said, okay. So I looked up what I needed to do and I got on the bus. I got on the right bus. I checked it later to make sure. I got on the right bus, but the stop that I had written down to take was never called. So I think it was called something else on the bus. So we're driving along and then suddenly we come to a stop and the bus driver looks at me and says, this is the last stop, you have to get off. And I was like, what? And I looked around and there's nobody else on the bus, it's just me. And I was like, oh. So I get off the bus and I was like, I did something wrong. Something wrong happened. And there were plenty of people there, but it was pretty late at night at this point. And it was dark and we were under an overpass and there was like no businesses anywhere to be found. And I was like, I need to figure out as soon as possible what bus I need to take from here. Like if I can get there from here. So I'm like frantically on my phone, like trying to figure it out. And my phone kept stalling. Like it was just taking forever to process the information. I was like, no, go faster, go faster, go faster. What if I miss the bus? By the time I finally figured out what bus I needed to take, I look up, it was like out of a movie. I look up and the bus is driving away and I was like, no, 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 no. Like get up to chase it, but it's like there was too much of a pause. There was a delay in my reaction and I was like, okay, time to make a phone call. So I called and I was like, okay, just so you know, these buses only come once an hour. I'm good though. I know what bus I need to take, so I'll just be there late. And he calls me back a few minutes later and he was like, we're just gonna come get you. And I was like, no, let me do this, let me go on this adventure. And he was like, no, we're gonna come get you because we don't want you to die. Because they like looked up where I was and they were like, nope. Like came to grab me. It's like, oh. The saddest part I think for me was I looked up because I was like, I wonder if there's some place that is not quite as terrifying that I could stay, because eventually all of the other people that were at the bus stop had taken their buses and it was just me and like a dude. I was like, well, so I started walking and I looked up to see if there was a Starbucks nearby and there was. It was pretty close and I was like, all right, I can do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I got there and it was closed. It was so sad. So I just stood awkwardly outside of the Starbucks, but I got to see plenty of people walk up and try to go in. Like it was obviously closed, but so many people walked up. Allow me to continue. So many people like walked up to the door and tried to open it and it wouldn't open and they just continued to try and I was like, homie, it's closed. It's like, it's locked. You're not getting in there. So yeah, so I was stuck in the middle of LA, not sure where I was for quite a while last night. Ridiculous. And by the time we like got to my friends' place, they were all like, so you're gonna stay. Yeah. Like, yeah. So I wound up, I figured out how to get back with no problems at all this morning. I was like, it's a new day. It's a new day. I'm gonna take the metro, and then from the metro, I'm gonna take the bus, and it's gonna be awesome. Word of advice, never think that just because something says the metro, it means the light rail, because it doesn't. There are metro buses, and then there is like the metro rail. They are different things. They are totally different things, and the website does not help. It does not explain it very well. So remember that. Anytime you're doing trip planner, if it's like buses and rails, just be like, I need the rail. I need the rail, guys. The rail is so much easier to figure out because it comes way more consistently and stuff, so. But, yeah. So this morning it all went fine, but yesterday was just a... It was ridiculous. But I lived through it. I tried to make a video while I was walking, and it like sketched me out too much because I'm like walking by myself in the middle of the darkness with like this camera pointed at myself, and I was like, I don't know why, but this makes me feel like it's gonna be like in one of those movies, because I had like the reverse camera so I could see myself, and I kept being like, what if this is like one of those really cool shots in a movie where I see somebody sneaking up upon me in the background and I'm like, oh, hells nah, and I bust out my knife. I had my knife on me and everything. My friend Jeannie was like, no, what we need to do is give you like 70 knives so that if somebody tries to attack you, you just pull out knives, and when they get like knocked out of your hand or taken from you, you just always have more, and then they eventually just give up because it's too ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, that's a good plan. Let's do that. But yeah, that was my experience. Those were my adventures. Like, ring go-gurt girl, and then the crazy shroom dude, and then getting lost in the middle of LA. What did I do wrong? I know what I did wrong now, but at the time I was like, what happened? What happened? So I'm glad that it all worked out, and I'm safe. I was trying to be pretty safe the entire time, but last night when I didn't know where I was, I started to be like, So I'm glad that in the end, it was all good. Yeah, so that was my day yesterday, and my day today was pretty relaxed because I was like, you know what? I don't want to do anything today now. So other than getting dinner and wearing this shirt and being called out on it, I didn't do a whole lot. And I hope that you guys had a good day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye. Mwah!